Hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff. I'm going to try not to be as dramatic in this video. I know that a lot of times I'm usually flailing and I don't think I scream in the microphone that often, but if you've been here before, you know I can be quite dramatic. We are entering a very specific period in history. And I think, or rather, I want more people to know and understand exactly what's going on. I understand that a lot of times the information that gets thrown out there, whether by myself or other people, can revolve around the price, how high the price is going to go, where the price was before, where people think things are going in the space. But I really believe, personally at least, the reason why we are seeing a gigantic amount of institutional interest is because of what I'm about to tell you. The craziest part for me is that this is public knowledge. But once again, the issue tends to be people mainly pay attention just to Bitcoin's price. So you'll notice in a lot of videos, I make sure to mention the amount of money flowing through Bitcoin. While Bitcoin is the number one coin, it has the highest market cap. It has the highest price US dollar wise. It's important to understand why it is at the top. It has to do with every 24 hours that go by that Bitcoin is around, stays alive, the network gets stronger and is more immutable. The idea of, and it's really funny because I was just talking with someone about the word immutable and they were like, to be fair, English is like their fourth language. You know, the word mute can be muted. Immutable is cannot be muted. The longer Bitcoin stays around, the stronger the network becomes, the more people who are mining Bitcoin, who are validating transactions, who are securing the network. Every 24 hours that Bitcoin stays around, it's more money that's flowing through the network over the course of 24 hours that the network hasn't shut down, hasn't had any downtime, hasn't slowed down any more than it currently already is with the 3 to 5 transactions per second. It shows a gigantic amount of resilience for a network that's only been around for 15 years to be able to transact in trillions of dollars worth of value at any given moment in time and not collapse, not fall apart. This isn't meant to be rude, but it's similar where Coinbase has a huge amount of volume happening over the course of time. Bitcoin's price is going up and Coinbase is being used. Coinbase sometimes shuts down or falls apart or isn't working for a couple of hours. Bitcoin doesn't do that. There's a lot of value in this system simply because of that. I think the institutions have chosen, rather backing it up, institutions have been in the market for a lot longer than a lot of people believe or would suspect. So we got news around 2017, 2018 that a lot of companies, institutions, and banks were actually secretly in Bitcoin since roughly around 2014. When you talk about metrics and longevity, this is what I try to mention as well when I talk about things other than the actual price. It's why any company or institution would get into the space. You may hear that, you know, we're really early. We're early in the space. You know, we're really early. It's because it's true. I used to hear this even years ago, and you would hear that we're early to the space, and you would look at Bitcoin's price, and I would kind of get down and go, why didn't I get Bitcoin at $1? Why didn't I get Bitcoin at $150? Not realizing that if you look back now, if you told people the original price that you got in Bitcoin for at, they would look at you like you're a genius. How did you get in so early? The halving is a very specific event that usually, I don't want to say gets overlooked, but people don't understand the actual math behind it. You get the half, cool, 50%, got it. Bitcoin is a clock that people have been paying attention to now for 15 or so years, as long as it's been around. We can mathematically see consistently when a halving is going to occur, how many blocks have to be mined when a specific event is going to take place over the course of a 4-year period. Bitcoin is one of the first times, if not, I want to say the only, but history's weird, one of the few times in history that we've had a near perfect monetary policy. Not the most exciting thing, but please hear me out. We currently live in a world where since 1945, 1946, the US dollar has reigned supreme over the planet. This was okay until around the 1970s. We went off the gold standard, and the US realized that they could print as much money as they wanted, causing inflation, but also making the people who controlled the money supply and other people who had tons of assets far richer than they previously were before. Other countries realized the exact same thing. They also went off the gold standard, and now the idea of a gold standard seems slightly like old, archaic. Like, why would you even think of doing something like that? You look at the current monetary policies that we have right now, and it basically runs on printing as much money as you can and getting into as much debt as you possibly can to be able to keep this current system surviving. You notice that markets do well, stock markets pump, everything goes up when the Fed is printing extra money, because they're devaluing the currency and assets go up as this new money that's being printed is thrown into the actual assets. Bitcoin is... I'm trying not to sound like a televangelist, but understand that this is what the market was waiting for, what people have been waiting for. And this is why I also think sometimes it's a bit of a gigantic shame when we hear that Bitcoin is for the people. It's for all of us. It's for 8 billion people on the planet. But rich people have kind of, the light bulb has gone off over their head and they're like, this is for us. So when we hear that they're accumulating huge, rapid amounts of Bitcoin, this is why I make sure to tell you the news of that day, so that at some point, hopefully, you can also potentially reevaluate and reassess your portfolio to see if this thing that all these wealthy people are buying is also for you. Because I cannot and will not ever tell you what to buy, but I will provide you the information so that you can, make a choice, as it were. These institutions are here because of this automatic financial policy. We live under, I don't want to say the weight of, but under the pressure of the US dollar. And a lot of times it's quite, unpredictable is the exact word that I was looking for. In that, this is why currently right now we're trying to decide or flip a coin. Will interest rates rise? Will they stay the same? Will they be lowered? How much money is going to be printed when the money printer gets turned back on even more rapid? Other countries around the world are having terrible economic experiences right now because their currencies are collapsing. Their real estate market isn't doing well. The inflation levels are going up. There's certain countries who have an inflation level of 79% per year and their interest rate is over 50%. It's not going well with them. What solves that? What is something that we can all say and all look at and know for certain that over the course of the next, 125 years is going to go off without a hitch? Because we know mathematically that it's going to. Bitcoin is powerful because of its predictability. You can make assertive choices based off of what you want to do in the future, or even mathematically seeing that during the halvings, after the halvings, 3 months after a halving, 6 months after a halving, Bitcoin goes up by this much. Bitcoin's price begins to move in this way. It's consistent. It's constantly in this groove. I think we've had news before about the demise of the US dollar, and I think sometimes it can be downplayed. I think a lot of us have seen far too many, my opinion, far too many Hollywood movies, and we are under the assumption that the decline of the US dollar is going to be some Godzilla rematch under the ocean, pew, 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 and all these other crazy kinds of things. No, it's going to be a slow and steady collapse. It's the same exact way that many other civilizations have also gone the way of as well. We will probably have the US dollar in some form or function for at least the next 50 years, but it will continue to do worse. I was going to say worser. Definitely not a word. If you've never seen a chart for it, Google the decline of the US dollar, like US dollar valuation or some kind of chart like that, you'll see it's already lost more than 99% of its value from whence it came from the 1970s when there was a gold standard. You can also see that chart as well against Bitcoin and also the euro and a bunch of other currencies. Many other currencies have lost 99.99% repeating, like an infinite repeat against Bitcoin. There's no coming back for them. The halving is not that far off. Broken record, we've been here. This number really got to me because I thought the number was actually a little bit lower, but it's not. There's new research that was just done where people were looking into the amount of Bitcoin that we have right now. Couple of numbers. The maximum there will ever be is 21 million. Got it. The amount that is believed to be lost and gone forever is currently, at the time of me making this video, sitting at 7.8 million. It was a couple of videos ago that I made. We had the assumption that the number was 4 to 6 million for a long time. Sorry. There was a company a couple of days ago who said that their numbers showed that the unmoved Bitcoin had actually reached 7.8 million. And it was based off of a lot of metrics, the main one being insanity. They don't say insanity, but the idea is if you had 500 Bitcoin that you had gotten for $5 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years ago, at some point you would have watched the news and you would have seen that Bitcoin's value had risen, that you are essentially a millionaire right now. What are the odds that you would have left that Bitcoin on a 2007 computer inside of your basement? It's near 0% because computers fall apart, they corrode. You would have moved that Bitcoin at some point off of that computer onto a 2012 computer. In 2012 or 2015, you would have moved it to a 2015 computer, et cetera, continuing. We would have seen the movement of these coins. The assumption is that after 15 years, if you haven't moved your coins, either they're lost and gone and destroyed, or you literally don't have access to them anymore because no one would keep them on an old computer from 2007, 2008, 2009 especially, or not even the idea of moving them, cashing out of them as well. So the number that I thought it was 91. I thought that 91% of all Bitcoin had been mined. According to new numbers that we know, therefore the predictability of it is actually 93.6% of Bitcoin's total supply has already been mined. For those of you who don't know the time frame, I know it shocks a lot of people. While this is 2024, because the halving has such a significant actual drop in the issuance rate of Bitcoin, because of all the halvings, it is going to take us until the year 2140 to mine the last fragments of Bitcoin. Thus, the 115 more years that we have to actually finish the creation of Bitcoin, leaving around 1.3 million Bitcoin remaining to be extracted over the course of a 115-year period. The significance of the halving, once again, is that for those of you who do not know, as new blocks are created, they're put onto the chain. So a new block gets created, they get put onto the chain, therefore a blockchain. It just continues in this fashion. Every time that a new block actually gets created, I have the numbers over here. And it's really funny, I'm living in a different time period because for some reason in my head, the number was still 12.5. I don't know why I had 12.5. Every time that a block gets created or a transaction is validated, there's 12.5 Bitcoin that gets created. That number is actually 6.25. I'm not sure how I was still around 12. The problem is that becomes, when we have the halving, 3.125. It becomes 50% more difficult to actually extract Bitcoin from the actual network. It even says it around here as well, and this is one of the reasons why I kind of I wasn't shooketh, but I sat there and I was like, of course. This is why the companies and the corporations actually got into the space now, because this is one of the last final chances that people are going to have to be able to actually have a way to acquire cheap Bitcoin. By the time we get to the 2028 halving, the reward gets cut down to 1.56 Bitcoin that are actually being created. That is going to be the last halving where you are actually able to create a whole Bitcoin as you are actually doing blocks on the blockchain. Remember I told you before in a couple of other videos, you have people like Plan B, you have Samson Mao, I can't remember this guy's name. I think it's Adam Back, the guy who runs Blockstream, and a bunch of other people. Recently, they were in the news, all three of them, but of course there are more, but these three are the most that stick in my head. They were in the news and people were asking them where they believed that Bitcoin's price was going to go by 2028. And their numbers had completely skyrocketed based off of the Bitcoin ETFs that we currently have right now. But they all had one thing in common. By 2029 to 2032, the idea of 2029 is 2028 is the next halving. And 2029 is like the year when everything is going back up once again. They all had the same number. Between 2029 and 2032, we will already be at over $1 million per Bitcoin. And then you sit there and you think and you like ponder over these numbers of the significance of that number and what it means to the fall of the US dollar and what it does to other asset classes as well. The idea of $1 million Bitcoin means that other people have gotten on board. They understand that they should have gotten on board before, and they've begun to sell other assets to exclusively push into Bitcoin to not miss out anymore. Because once again, this news is public, but the public doesn't know about it and doesn't talk about it because the main thing that people care about is Bitcoin's price. So you see Bitcoin's price going up, you may even see it going down, and you don't understand the significance of every time the price goes down that whales are buying. Why would they be buying this asset? It's because it's extremely scarce. If you have almost 8 million of it that's lost and gone forever, 19 million have been mined, and we are, us, probably never, me and you, never going to see the last fragments of Bitcoin being mined. Why do you think Fidelity and BlackRock and MicroStrategy are buying up as much Bitcoin as humanly possible? Because in less than a month, it's going to be almost twice as hard to actually create that Bitcoin. Another 4 years, it's going to be even more difficult. By the time we get to 2032, you will not be making an entire Bitcoin as you validate transactions. That's 2032. In 2036, it gets cut in half again. In 2040, it gets cut half again. At that point, people are just fighting for what Bitcoin that there is. Because everything else that's made, if you look at the issuance chart, I'll also, as always, I have these in the description below. The issuance has flatlined. By the time we get to 2040, the issuance rate, because like you can see it going down on the chart, 2040 is flat. And it continues in a straight line flat until the year 2140. We are living through something that I want people to be able to appreciate, but I want you to also really get it through your heads that this is it. This is the moment that you have to pay attention, because if not, you're going to be left behind. It's not meant to scare you. It's not meant to whatever. It's literally like if you have been looking, it's not even the writing on the wall. It's the writing on this channel, the things that I'm saying daily, constantly. How often are we getting news like this? It's no longer a situation where it's like, oh yeah, Bitcoin might potentially one day or do this. It's like, no, we know the numbers that are happening. If by the time we get to the end of summer, keep this in mind as well. What was the number? It says that, where is it? There's 1.34 million Bitcoin left to be mined. 1.34 million. We have heard last week that MicroStrategy, no, not even MicroStrategy, that Fidelity, BlackRock, ARK Invest, and the other companies who issued their NFTs, it took 7 weeks for them to acquire 300,000 Bitcoin. If that happens again, this is currently, April, May. By the end of May, the beginning of June, if that pattern continues, these companies will have another 300,000 Bitcoin. We can agree on that number? Remember, there's only 1.3 million Bitcoin left to be mined. They would essentially have purchased that 300,000 from that 1.3 million. Of course, it's still inside the blocks, but it has to come from somewhere. So it comes from Coinbase, it comes from Kraken, it comes from Gemini, it comes from you. When the price goes down, they know that you're scared, so you sell your coins. The moment you sell your coins and you come back here the next day, what's the news? Whales bought up all the coins. It's daily. It's constantly happening. What we know right now is that these companies are accumulating all the Bitcoin that's mined per day. They're currently buying 13 times what's being created per day. It's going to double to 26 times the amount of Bitcoin that's created per day by those 9 companies alone. Now imagine everyone else who's also buying tons of Bitcoin as well. Nearly 8 million lost and gone, 19 million mined, 300,000 accumulated in 6 to 7 weeks. Where are we by May? How much Bitcoin do they have? Where are we by December? Do they have over 1 million Bitcoin? And that's just those 9 companies. The frenzy always happens after the halving. People go crazy in trying to accumulate as much Bitcoin as humanly possible because they know that the economic policy can't be reversed. It's not a government. They can't go, well, I don't know, maybe we'll print more. No. What's being printed is what's being printed. It's hard coded into the code of Bitcoin. It will not be changed. Yes, 93.6% of Bitcoin's total supply has been mined. It'll take us another 115 years to get 1.34 million Bitcoin out of the system. 115 years. And these companies are buying up gargantuan amounts of Bitcoin. We just had news that MicroStrategy has been collecting Bitcoin for themselves, no one else, for 2 years, and they now have over 200,000 Bitcoin. We also heard last year, maybe the year before, that the CEO, Michael Saylor, also has 6 figures of Bitcoin himself as well. Not $600,000 worth of Bitcoin. He has 6 figures, over 100,000 Bitcoin just for himself. They're buying up Bitcoin all the time, and the halving is rapidly approaching. Just thought I'd share the news with everyone out there who wasn't aware of all this stuff that's been going on. It's gonna get crazy, I'm telling you. And last point. A lot of the price predictions that we've been getting, we've been going over the 200, 300 something $1,000 Bitcoin. I think they're going to happen this cycle. It just seems completely logical. There's no way on this earth that these companies aren't going to stop buying as much Bitcoin as they possibly can. Once again, if you want to read the articles, they are going to be in the description below for you to peruse and see exactly how insane all of this is. I think I did pretty well. Didn't rant, or maybe I did. I kind of blacked out at some point. Yeah. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, paying attention, liking, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.